The first thing I've done, took the wheels off, and then I went ahead and used my grinder right here with cutoff wheel to cut the U-bolts on both sides. Took the shock bolts off, got those off of there. I'm not, I don't have a camera crew, so I don't have anyone just follow me around filming me while I'm working. So I'm gonna do a few more things and get you some more video. The old axle is out. The new axle fixing to go under here. Got a lot of stuff taken off. Got to run to town, get new spring pins. That's what, centers the axle on the spring, or I don't know about center, however you want to say it. Keeps it from going forward and backward. But anyway, lines it up. So, gonna go get that. We are at that time where I'm about to put a little weld on the axle or spring perch, whatever, weld it to the axle. Got that one over there. So, pinion angles. Well, first of all, before pinion angles, I measured here, each side, 1 1/8 inches, which isn't a whole lot of room. We're pretty dang tight, but 1 1/8 inches on both sides. You want to make sure before you weld anything, your side to side is perfect. And then pinion angle. The whole idea behind pinion angle is that your two U-joints there and wherever your other U-joint is, this is a 2-piece drive shaft. So we've got one here and then one at the back of the transmission. But the two U-joints that are working together, you want to make sure are at the same angle. So I placed that there. That is about 6 degrees. What I did over here, you would think, well, let's put that at 6 degrees. But no, I've got it at 10. I don't know exactly how much the angle is going to change, but that angle will not change. This angle will change and it'll come up and rotate upward. First of all, this isn't bolted in yet. The axle spring, or the spring itself, is going to come up whatever that distance is, about 4 inches. So this is coming up 4 inches. I know that this is coming up, so I know that my pinion is going to roll forward as that comes up. I'm guessing 10 or 11 is going to be where I want it. You want it as close as possible. This is not a race truck. He's probably going to be topping out about 60, maybe 70. I'm not sure, but it's just a cruiser. It's not for hauling anything. It's not for drag racing. So I think if we're in 1 or 2 degrees, everything's going to be fine. But that is something you definitely want to keep in mind, especially side to side. Hope it helps. Okay, don't worry too much about the welds. They're gonna hold, but all I'm doing right now on both sides is the top edge of that perch on both sides, left and right and front and back, is the only thing I've welded right now. I will eventually weld under the axle, but like I said, I know the whole rear end's got to come up. The rear leaf has to come up, which is going to change my pinion angle. That's about 6. I set this about 10. If that don't work, I don't want to have to cut all the welds. So I'm pretty confident, and that's why I didn't just tack it. I did go all the way across. But I'm also still being cautious because I can always weld the bottom of that later. So anyways, that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. Boys and girls, it's official. I still haven't done my finished welding yet, but I got the U-bolts on and As you can see, I've got the jack holding up all the suspension. Of course, these aren't tight, but they're where they're gonna be. The back end of the truck is suspended by the springs and the axle. And of course, you know, we've got the C-notch kit, but you can see it's not sitting on the frame. You can, you know, whatever, there's room there. So it's sitting where it's supposed to be sitting. Now, with the bed on here, you know, a few extra 100 pounds. Those are pretty stiff springs. Even if it comes up, you know, another ½ inch toward the frame, who knows? ½ inch, an inch maybe, but I don't know if you can really see that, but we are sitting right at 6 degrees. So, again, 6 degrees there, 6 degrees there. With the back end weight on the springs, and that axle is where it's going to be riding. Again, like I said, with the weight of the bed, it might come up another ½ inch, or maybe even if it comes up another inch, of course, you know, C-notch, that's not going to hit the frame. That's not going to be a problem. As the spring comes up, that shackle moves back just a little. But really, the 2 points, that point and that point, they don't move up and down. It'll just ride back and forth. So the axle, as it's going up and down, will also move back and forth, but the pinion angle will not change. So if you're doing this yourself and you got everything suspended, well, I guess, you know, the way this was sitting down here, these 2 pins were basically even. Let's see how much of a difference that is, in case anybody's wondering. So, center to center, and you're pretty much looking at 3.5 inches, because again, that was laid down about there. So, anyway, bringing the back end of the spring up about 3.5 inches, change the pinion angle about 4 degrees. So, maybe that helps you, maybe it don't. But anyways, we're gonna keep on keeping on. We gotta get that cut out of there for the C-notch. Of course, that's the C-notch. There it is. I've cut this side. I squared straight up off the center of the axle, which, you know, I'd have to hold this just perfectly right here for you guys to think so. But anyway, what I've done, of course, just took all my measurements, you know. It's got a little bit of room to move around. What you gotta keep in mind, those welds, you know, they kind of get in the corner there. So that's why I gave myself enough room, front and back and at the top. And when you get it up there, I can't even move it front to back at all. So I'm fixing to, I put white lines around that. I'm gonna weld this in. I am not doing any bolts. It's all gonna be fully welded. This is the first time that I've actually bought a C-notch kit. I normally make my own. So what I would do normally, you know, I don't usually cut them off square. I usually come at a little bit of an angle. But anyway, normally what I do, I'll C-notch out however much I need, and then I take plate and just weld it in, and even put a, you know, usually come in here with a 2-inch longer piece, just kind of connect all this. Yeah, you know, just make it as strong as you can make it if you're going to do it yourself. This is probably 3/8, 5/16 or 3/8. I'm not sure. I haven't measured it. This is probably 3/16, or I don't know, whatever. I might end up just cutting this part out because I don't know what the frick I'm talking about. But anyway, so the thickness of this should more than take care of what you're cutting out, because, you know, that metal there might be 3/16. This right here looks like a quarter. This is probably 5/16 or 3/8. So we're putting in a whole lot more metal than we've cut out. So should be good to go. I'm gonna grind all this. I'm gonna grind all this here because I'll do rosette welds where each one of those is supposed to have a bolt. But anyway, like I said, I always just weld it. I've never bolted anything in, and I'm not gonna sit here and screw with trying to drill 6 holes. So, all right. I am not a professional welder, but you know, I think it's gonna hold. You see a few stop and goes there. You know, no big deal. I believe it'll work. Let's see. Try not to move the camera too much. I don't want to make anybody sick. But yeah, that right there is what I'd call good enough.